What is up, guys? Sonner for Canadian Rider. Welcome to the Downshift podcast. This is a new podcast series that I'm doing on the channel, and it's going to be all about cars, motorcycles, and detailing. I'm going to be bringing a lot of different guests that I know across all of these different landscapes just to talk about the latest things that are going on. And in this first episode, I'm super excited to bring on Michael Thibodeau and talking about his experience and the decision-making process in getting a Porsche Cayman GT4 and the process of buying that. So Mike, welcome to the Downshift podcast, the first episode.
Thanks for having me. No pressure first episode. I hope I'm living up to what you expect.
Yeah. So tell us about, a little bit about yourself and kind of where you got to the point now that you're actually going to be able to make a dream car purchase, which is so exciting.
Definitely. So as you said, my name is Mike Thibodeau. I really fit, I guess, into this mold where the people on your podcast are going to be all walks of car enthusiasts. And I think that's me for as long as I can remember. Growing up, I was that kid who would buy those Fast and the Furious style cars. Maybe you did the same.
Yeah.
Changing the rims to lime green and body kits and wings. And, while I probably don't do that with any of my cars today, it really speaks to that early childhood passion. And really, as long as I can remember, Porsches have always really been that dream car of mine, but obviously weren't something I could go jump right at early on. And so I've had a bunch of different cars that I've been fortunate to own along that journey. And here we are today at a pivotal moment where I'm able to, thankfully make this type of decision and jump in on a dream that I've always had.
Yeah, that's so exciting, especially because you know me, when I got the R8, I did so much research on that car because that was my dream car. And, I went bananas about it. I was researching every day, trying to find the right actual model. But in the same time, I was still comparing it with other cars. And you just mentioned the GT4 has been your dream car. But one of the first things I would do, and I know you've done it, is compare it against some of the other cars in the market because, you're going to be investing a lot of money into this car. It is your dream car, but you also want to see what's out there in the market. So explain to me kind of what were the options? I know there were a few options in my head when I was looking at, in this price range, what's competitive.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, I would say the GT4 wasn't specifically my dream car. Porsches have been, and I've always loved the look. I've always loved the very elegant look of the car, the lower key, less flashy designs, and so it's always been a car that I've really admired. Interestingly enough, the only other real sports car that I've always dreamed about has been the Audi R8. And so Porsche,
I took it from you.
I know. And then you had it, so I couldn't go there. But, they were all sort of the ones that I had in consideration. And so when I kind of roll this back to where I was a couple months ago making this decision, I had a BMW 335i. Yep. It couldn't be the regular one, so it had to be the M Performance Edition.
Yeah.
It was an amazing daily and sporty car, so it met that combination of both. But it really, when I started to come along this decision, it was what was the purchase I was going to make? Was this going to be that dream car purchase? Was I just looking to switch up to a different sports car? And so I really started thinking, is this going to be a daily car? Is this going to be a pleasure car, a track car? And what was that fit? And I think that boiled down to, I want something I can use evenings, weekends for fun, for pleasure, maybe use it to commute to work if we ever go there again. Track very occasionally, but that's not his primary purpose. And so I whittled that down to what was I going to look at and what was important to me. And I think one of the things that was super important was it being manual, because the thing about my 335, I was only able to get that in automatic. I bought it used. That's what was available at the time. And while it was still tons of fun, one thing that I did miss was driving manual and that experience of, if I'm taking a car as my pleasure car, you really want the full driving experience, right? You don't want to have pressure of having to be anywhere at a specific time.
Right.
So when I started doing that, I started looking at a couple different things. When you start to narrow down to wanting a manual car, you really find yourself in sort of Porsches, some of the C7 Corvettes, some of the BMWs like an M3, the similar model to your Audi R8, not the newer ones because they're automatic. I did for a brief moment also consider the Corvette C8, but again, automatic, so it didn't really fit the mold. And so my dream car has always been a Porsche GT3. And I would say like a 911 GT3, I could name at least like 50% of my friends that would say the exact same car as their dream car. It's just, you
Right.
see it and you never, your head just kind of spins around and to look at it. And they're
It's
beautiful.
like a beautiful design, like purely timeless, kind of similar to the RA, and that's why I love it. It'll never get old. It's going to age gracefully.
100%. And so the GT3A is a lot of car. It's also a lot more expensive. And when we're talking even in the used market, to get one in manual, there's very specific years that you have to look for. And so you have to be a bit picky. The other Porsche that fits that mold, though, was that I was strongly considering was the GTS. And so
Right.
you get a lot of the GT bits. It's a 911. There are a little bit more of them in the used market that are manual. So I think it's really where I boiled it down. A Carrera 4S, a BMW M3, a C7 Corvette. But the thing that I hadn't really considered, I'd always sort of known about a GT4, but I hadn't spent a lot of time and energy focusing on researching it. And so I guess that's sort of to your point where, you think you have this dream car and then you spend a bit more time researching. And as I did that, I really started to not, I've always loved the look of the GT4. But, in my mind, maybe I thought of it just purely as a Cayman. And so I think as I started doing the research on it, learning a lot more about how everyone has basically said, if you are looking for experience, the driving experience, this is the car. It's great on the track, but also a ton of fun on the street. Like it has more than enough power to serve that everyday need.
Right.
And so another reason it sort of didn't pop up on the radar as fast is they only really made this car in 2016, right? It was a limited run 2016. Now recently they've come up with it again new, which we'll get to in a second, but that's sort of where the decision came down. And I think what really put me over the edge on this decision was I went out, talked to some owners in the used market, none of them would let me test drive it, unfortunately, with the type of car this is. But I got to ride as a passenger in a few of them. And that really sort of opened up my eyes to, what, I think this car really can be the car and is the car that fits and checks all the boxes. It fits the Porsche brand that I've always loved. It's got styling I love. It's going to be a fun car that I can keep forever, or at least a very long time. And that's sort of where we boiled it down. And then the last decision to be made was new or used. And we can talk about that a bit if you're interested.
Yeah, so like you were just talking about the comparisons of the cars. So you talked about the M3, potentially the R8, the C7, even the C8. Okay, so you made your decision, GT4, 100%. It's a beautiful car, one of my favorites from Porsche. But now, new or used, that's another great point. And I remember when the 2016 GT4s came out, the demand was through the roof. And, we saw, and I saw depreciation actually, there was almost no depreciation. And you probably saw that. And walk us through, like, your decision after, like, researching on that new versus used and what kind of path you went through after that.
Yeah, so I started obviously used, thinking, new maybe didn't make sense, but I didn't really dig into the detailed pricing of the new just yet. I started with used.
Right.
Um, and when I started looking into the used market, I guess at that point I was more considering this as like maybe a step towards the 911 GT3 eventually at some point in my life. And when I started looking into the used market, the pricing, and I think I sent you even some pricing just the other day. If you look at the pricing, you'll note that a lot of the GT4s from 2016 are somewhere around 100, 105 to 115, $120,000 plus tax. Most of the people that are selling them for trade-in, and not really looking to negotiate too much on pricing. And so most of them, because the car is 4 years old, whether or not they hit it in kilometers, all need the 4-year service. That service is close to 1,500 to 2,500, depending where you go. And so that was a thing that came to mind. So as I started doing the math, a lot of them had this 4-year service interval. They've obviously had some wear life on the tires. They were all out of warranty now. Some of them had moved a lot of hands. There was probably only one or two that had original owners.
Really? In that short amount of time?
Yeah, it seems like, in this exotic kind of space, people own them for a summer. Actually, one of the ones I was considering, and it's one of the ones I sent you the other day. I was looking at it at the beginning of the summer. The owner had now switched hands. It looks like someone owned it for the summer and is now selling it. They bought it at like 6,000 kilometers and are selling it now at 8. So they enjoyed it maybe for a summer and are just changing it. I don't know. But
And probably because they can do that, knowing that they probably don't take a hit on depreciation. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised.
same price. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised they're selling it for the same price. They had their joyride with it. They're like, all right, that's enough, and let me get my money back, kind of a thing.
100%. So at that point, I started thinking like, what's a new Porsche GT4 going to cost? What are the benefits of having a car with warranty, brand new tires? They've obviously changed a little bit of the spec and styling that especially in the rear looks amazing on the new Porsche GT4. So those are all considerations. So not having the service interval, not having the tires with any wear, having full warranty, that was a strong consideration, and I balanced that in pricing. And also part of the dream of owning a Porsche GT3 was also getting the Porsche buying experience. And for anyone that knows Porsches, they know that there's a list of options longer than you could ever count.
Yeah.
And part of the specialness of this is getting it in the spec that you want. It could be a very bloated spec, it could be fully stripped down, but at the end of the day, the new purchase comes with a very wide variety of like customizations. And if you go back to like changing the lime green wheels on that car when I was like 10 or 12 years old, this is the same thing, but you're doing it for your vehicle. And so you are in full control. So that sort of led me to all of these things considered, built in, and that experience that this probably won't be a car I may ever sell. This is the time to buy that dream car and take advantage of the full buying experience. And that's where we ended up. So that was the decision I made. I locked in on the decision to buy a new Porsche GT4. And I made that decision back in late July. And I can talk to you a little bit about that process, but I think there's some specialness in how that's played out. Maybe I'm the only person like this, but when you're spending this kind of money and buying this kind of car, the decision of making the spec exactly how you want it will drive you crazy. Like you'll be thinking about it every day until you absolutely can't change it anymore. And I think that's what's been really cool about this buying journey. So, and I can talk to you a little bit about that after.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? It's always ingrained in me too. You're always trying to find the used car because you're thinking, all right, the new car is going to take a big hit in depreciation, but this is not the case with this car. So, as you mentioned, you go through all these different variables and factors. It's almost like it's smarter to actually buy the new car, right? Yes, maybe you're paying a small premium over the used, but it's part of the experience. It's more than just buying the car.
And for context, like if you want to take absolutely no add-ons with this car, in the Canadian market, it is $115,000 for 2020, 2021. Plus like your destination charges and stuff. So you come in under $120,000. And I just told you in the used market, they're 105 to 120. So once you load in spec, like you're actually talking about a difference of maybe $10,000 or $20,000, depending how you load it up, which is obviously a very significant amount of money. I'm not discounting that. But when you're making this sizable of a purchase decision, one that isn't like a decision that you're holding on to for 3 to 5 years over a long period of time, that amount of money starts to become far less of a debate, especially if you can have that full experience and be the first person and only person to own that car, which car enthusiasts, I think, would side with me. Like there's something special about that new car purchase, and being the only one to ever drive that car is a bit of a special moment.
Right. So you just talked about the specs. Congratulations. You obviously locked in on your dream car, which is amazing. It's so cool. Talk about the specs. I know you can actually share with us kind of what your spec sheet build looks like right now. And I know you have some things that you're still undecided upon, but why don't we actually go and take a look at that across who knows how many options there are on this GT4?
Yeah, so I'll bring it up in a second, but I think there's an important piece for the listeners and viewers, whichever channel they're listening in, to understand about this. So the way the process works, when you're buying a Porsche GT4 or even a GT3, these cars are not just everybody can buy them, unlimited production. So there are like a set number that they make every year.
Right.
So the process started with going into the dealership and seeing if you could get an allocation. On the GT4s, it's been a bit easier to get an allocation, especially depending where you live, in which markets. But that allocation comes with you're making a deposit to hold your seat when the availability to build one comes up. So you put a deposit. So I put a deposit down in August, and that only guaranteed me that I will be buying a Porsche GT4 when a slot comes up to build one. They will let me know when that slot comes up. And when that slot comes up, I will be given somewhere around 60 to 90 days to finalize what that car needs to look like. After that, there is no turning back. It goes into production in Germany, and something around 60 to 90 days after it goes into production, it arrives here in Canada for you to take possession of.
So when you put down that deposit, do they tell you, hey, you're gonna get that call in like 4 months, 5 months, or
there was like an expected timeline. Honestly, it was sort of one of those things that I was like anxious to have that slot ready, but then the day I got the email, it was a little bit like, I gotta lock in spec.
right?
There's like some nuanced things that you're like, getting a little panicked about. But they sort of said that it would be somewhere around late fall, early winter, where it would be open for build and I would get an allocation most likely, and that it would come in this spring to summertime most likely. And so basically I got an email saying your allocation has come with a date. That email came, I think, 2 weeks ago. Build will start in January. And it will arrive here for delivery in March. So that means I have probably until the middle of December, absolute latest, to lock in spec. And the way the Porsche dealership says is they don't really give a full like, okay, today was your last day. Are you sure? Like, You should just have your spec locked in advance, at least 15 to 30 days. At least that's what I was told. And that's how you do it. So we've effectively got like 30 days from now, spec will be locked. I think we're pretty darn close.
Right.
And we can talk about that now. But I think that has been a really good thing for me. I don't know if everyone's in the same boat, but when you're adding these things, you could just add everything, add nothing. But thinking through the decisions in more detail, looking at what others have done without the pressure. So when you buy in the used market, there's pressure. Like the spec is already done and you're choosing between some and maybe racing against someone else to pick up the car.
Right.
In this scenario, you're given maybe months to thoroughly think through it, watch zillions of YouTube, follow people on Instagram, see the things they've done, see what happens when it looks with black satin rims versus the silver or the gold. Like, it's just all these things that you want to go do to make it exactly the way you want. And, in some ways, maybe never regret a bad decision because you've owned that decision at the end of the day. It's sort of like even just buying new wheels for your car. Most car enthusiasts will spend weeks, if not months, on that single decision. Now amplify that to hundreds of part and options. So
yeah, for like when I was powder coating my rims, I've spent so long trying to figure out what exact color would look great on the car. You have to do that for God knows how many options. So let's start talking about the options. I don't know if you can present your screen and pull it up.
Yeah, I'll pull it up now for you.
Having never bought a new car, I've never gone and done this experience. I don't know if other manufacturers have this Porsche code or some sort of code building process. I know they have, where you go on the website and you put the options up, etc. But the way Porsche has done it, it's very intuitive and looks really good.
Let me know if you can see it, and then let's talk about how you want to go through it. I think what maybe is like the best to do, is to come to sort of like the start of it all. And we can scroll down through that and talk about the options that I've made. The picture on the left is obviously not exactly what it looks like, but as you update spec, it updates on the left as well.
Oh my God. So this looks amazing right off the bat. I know you have some of the spec locked in already. So tell us about this color. It says special color.
Yeah, so obviously there's 4 standard colors, 3 metallic colors, 3 special colors, and if you want to be bold, you can do what Porsche calls paint to sample or custom color. You could go with anything. There's allocations for how many people can do that, but it's an option as well. For me, like, I think I've gone a couple different ways on what I would have loved to have as the color. Chalk very much jumped out to me. So did gentian blue. Just so everyone can kind of see, I'll make that switch. This is the gentian blue. I don't think this picture does it justice, but
Oh, that looks so good too.
I know it looks, and it's very like, it's that deep blue that at night looks almost black, but during the day looks really nice and blue. There's also sort of the Miami blue, which is really bright. But for me, I wanted something that I think will be a little bit more timeless, very subtle. And so the chalk was very close to white, but like a slight difference. And I really like how it, those dark grays, or this, I don't know, this color's really jumped out to me. So
especially with all the black parts, like even the rims, everything, the contrast adds a lot to the car.
100%. And I really only debated 3 colors on this car for me personally. One was the black. And you've even coached me on this one where a black car is an amazing thing, but it's also in itself a chore to continue to manage and keep clean. So.
But it looks sexy and beautiful when sunset hits and it's clean for like the 5 seconds that it's clean. It just looks beautiful. But I agree with you. Like, I remember you were showing me these color options. I like chalk because it looks new, but it still has that timeless look of like what I think white would look like on this car would be like fantastic.
And it's like a little bit off from like a silver, right? Like it's a little
right.
bit different than a silver, a little bit different than a white. And then I very much weighed gentian blue for a very long time.
Right.
But for me, there's some contrast of what chalk did for this car that really closed the deal for me on why I chose this color. And you'll see that as I go through some of the spec.
Wow. Okay, that looks super nice. All right, and then so you made a decision on chalk. Then you have the wheels, and these are just the wheels that come with all the GT4s. Is that right?
Yeah, there's just one set of wheels, but what they allow you to do is paint them in one of 3 colors. So they come standard in silver. I guess I can show you guys just so you see. Hopefully I don't unlock my spec. So that's a silver. There's also satin aurum, which is a little bit more like a goldish bronze. Looks really great with this chalk color as well. But I kind of settled on satin black as the option there.
That looks so nice. Can you rotate through the images on the car with this color combo and the wheels?
Too many.
Oh my God. Look at that. Oh my God.
And you'll see like some of the contrasting with the chalk here, like how the lights are blacked out on every color. So the contrasting is beautiful with the diffuser, the wheels. That was really a big piece of it.
Wow. Wow.
Giving away a bit of my interior choices here.
Oh, wow. This is like absolutely stunning, like car. Oh my God.
And then after that, you start to get into like a bit of mix of, it bounces a little bit between interior and exterior. So I think I'll wrap a couple of these decisions in to like speed it up a little, since I don't think everyone wants to hear every single decision I made. But the calipers on the Porsche GT4 come standard in red. You can do 2 things with that. You can paint them in black, or you can get them in yellow. Yellow means you've upgraded to the Porsche carbon ceramics. So I do love how this car looks with yellow calipers, and the leather with race text interior with the contrast stitching in yellow. However, the carbon ceramics were not the right decision for me.
How does it look in yellow? Can you show us, or will it screw up the package?
Which, the calipers?
Yeah, the calipers.
I can switch it up. It's under performance. It's a very affordable $9,000.
Oh, that's for the full brake package.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, just the price on it, the functionality of it, it just really didn't make sense for me.
Right.
So I went with the standard red. I didn't change them to black. I do like how they pop, and therefore I went with the guards red interior accenting as well. And, the details are really an important piece when choosing a car like this.
Right.
I'll skip over seats since I think that's the last one we want to talk about.
Okay.
You can choose to do like every level of like stitching on things. You can do it individually, or there's parts that you can just clip off. So I'll come back to that. I chose to do the Porsche GT4 logo in gloss black instead of kind of chrome.
Right.
Left the Porsche logo here in the sort of gunmetal that it comes in, but you can also do that in satin black if you wish.
And you could remove it, right? Like, I think I saw this.
The GT4 logo you can remove. Yeah, it's an option. It's just $0 option. $0 options are always good with Porsche. They're not very frequent, but you can delete the badge if you want. I left it on.
Yeah, I personally like it on. Like, I don't like typically debadged cars. I like the fact that obviously it's a Porsche, but that stamp there, that it's Porsche, that it's a GT4, I like that. And I like the contrast, as you mentioned, like the black on the chalk white, and then you can still see the chrome Porsche or on the taillight, and that looks great too.
Definitely. When it comes down to performance, the 2021, this is a new feature, which is you can now get it in PDK or automatic. But for me,
was that not an option before? Is that new?
That wasn't an option on 2020. This is a 2021 option where it comes with PDK. Yeah, and in 2016 it was only manual 6-speed.
Yeah, like this is, I see the PDK. I understand why people like it. Super fast shifts. I get that, but like for a lot of people, especially like you're a great example of this. You're a car enthusiast. You love this thing. You're not going to be driving it every day. The times you do, you want to make sure that you get the best possible experience with the car. Like the manual transmission to me is a no-brainer. Like you absolutely need to get the manual unless you have a very specific reason. Like you're taking this car out to the track all the time and you want like the best laps. Okay, get a PDK. But what percentage of the population is that? Like 1%? I don't know.
Decision for the PDK. It does shave quite a bit of time in terms of the shifting. I think even Euro 60s like more than half a second faster. But again, like this isn't the reason I'm buying this car. And so the manual transmission and the experience were far greater in terms of what I wanted.
Right.
Chrono package. This is like a very iconic thing for anyone that loves Porsches, but it throws up on the dash the analog stopwatch, which is sort of a beautiful look.
That's a must. Like that's just classic.
Lights. I went with the LED headlights. If anyone's seen them, they look very beautiful with this like X type look.
Oh, wow. What do they look without that? You know what? I actually don't know.
Yeah, I'll show you the bi-xenon. That's the bi-xenon with a blacked out housing. Otherwise, it's more of a chrome housing inside. So this is bi-xenon with blacked out housing. Or it's the LED. So that was another one of the more costly add-ons to this car was the LED lights. But they look beautiful and it's sort of the latest in light technology around corners and night driving, and if I'm keeping this car for a long time, it made sense.
What's the light design package I saw under light?
Yeah, I hummed and hawed about this one a little bit. There's extra ambient lighting inside and underneath the areas of the door handles and stuff, so it's more of just the ambient internal lighting.
I would 100% get that. I don't know why you were humming and hawing on that. That just makes everything just feel nicer and more luxurious.
Vanity mirrors illuminate as well. sun visors, the driver sort of under the footwells inside. So it gives you that like light ambiance inside when night driving.
Yeah, that's like a must. I'm glad you picked that option up.
Yeah. Didn't need power folding mirrors. Like I think my decision on a lot of these other things was try to minimize a lot of things that might over time create headaches.
Right.
So I don't need power folding mirrors. I don't need rain sensing wipers. I don't plan to drive this in the rain a ton.
Right.
So that's where I netted on that. I think one of the other, I guess, two of the bigger things that I did as well. When you come down somewhere down here.
And just to confirm, the side mirrors still fold.
No, they're fixed.
Oh, they're fixed. Okay.
And then I did the carbon fiber on the interior. I don't know if this picture does it full justice, but basically all of these bits all around here are carbon fiber, all in and around here. Otherwise, it's like a silver, or you can get it body matched as well. In chalk, that's less pronounced. It may just look like silver inside the car.
Right.
And I think the carbon fiber was a very nice look. Audio and communications, I did not add navigation, but I did add Apple CarPlay. I think a lot of people would agree that it's a great decision. It'll allow me to just plug in my phone. Unfortunately, right now, I'm not using an iPhone. This may cause me to switch back, but if I'm making a decision that's not bound by the next 1 to 2 years, Apple CarPlay makes a lot of sense. At some point, I'm sure I may switch back to an iPhone.
God help you switching back to iPhone. I'm just kidding. Apple has made some better products lately. But yeah, the navigation seems useless to me. If you have CarPlay, correct me if I'm wrong, CarPlay has your maps nav, right?
It has all of that, and maybe there will be a point in time where this is simply a software update. I mean, at the end of the day, the onboard component is a computer that allows it to have CarPlay, so it theoretically could. I've seen people actually mod it to include Android Auto, where they load it on.
Oh, well,
I don't know if I'll go there, but it is an option I've seen people do. Yeah.
Interesting.
And then I did the Bose surround sound system. The audio is probably not one of those things I'm going to use all the time in this car, but you know, if I'm driving alone and just wanting part of that experience where I don't want to just hear the engine revving and the exhaust hum,
right.
Having good sound was important, and the stock sound system just wasn't there. The Bose isn't the best I've ever heard, but it's far better. So that was an add-on. I guess the last two things, which were add-ons, but ones that I pushed to have included in the deal, was the Porsche GT4 car cover. So it looks like that. There's two kinds. So I asked to have this included in the deal, and the trickle charger, the Porsche Charge-O-Mate trickle charger as well.
Oh my, that looks good. That looks good.
I'll expand it for you, but this is how it looks. The last decision, and I know I messaged you probably weekly about this, and you're probably annoyed by now. The red accent bits, as you can see.
Oh, the red accents look just gorgeous. Oh.
And they're subtle with the carbon fiber. I did the red accent at the top of the steering wheel.
Yeah.
And then the last thing. One. I know you kind of asked why I added the smoking package when we were talking about this last.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't smoke, but this part right here would be open. But if you get the smoker's package, for some reason it gives you a lid, and I think that just looks really nice. So that's.
So otherwise, it's just open and a little bit weird.
Yeah, exactly.
Weird. Interesting.
So the last decision are these seats, and this one's been a very long decision. I'll probably switch back to them because I know you're going to want to see them again. They're just beautiful. These are the two-way seats. These are like the main seat you get. You can upgrade them to two options. You can upgrade them from two-way adjustable to 18-way adjustable. Okay. For me, that was less important, and it feels like a lot of things that could over time go wrong.
Right.
So two-way, simpler was better. The other option, and I'll switch over to it now just so you can see, are what I would say is the most beautiful seat I've ever seen. But the full bucket seats, I'm going to click on it. It's just shy of $7,000 as an option. I'll expand it. So this is what they look like. I actually don't even know if that picture does it justice. Maybe this has better photos. This is what they look like.
You could take us go through the pictures on the red. I want to see it in the red. There's more. Like if you click through.
Like
Yeah,
the
there's a few, but you won't see it fully in the red. This is the only photo it gives.
Oh, really? Oh, but that looks so nice.
They're beautiful. They're actually quite comfortable. So I sat in the ones from the 2016 and also from the 2020. They're quite comfortable once you're in them. I've never had such a hard time getting in and out of a car.
Yeah, look at those side bolsters. Look how like tall they are.
The side bolsters are really tall, so you sort of have to like tuck and roll into the car a little.
Right.
While that's probably fine for me now, maybe in 10, 20 years, that won't be as easy. It definitely may not be as easy for passengers that wish to get into my car. So, if my wife wants to get in and we want to go out somewhere nice for dinner, that may become a hassle. If we want to go on a longer drive for, say, an hour or 2 hours somewhere, again, that may be a hassle. And I think the hardest part for me, I think I've normed that I'm willing to pay the $6,700 for these seats. But the reason I may not choose these seats, despite how beautiful they are, is just the practicalness of them for how I intend to use this car.
Right.
And so if it's going to be hard to go and, take this car out for some nice dinners or longer drives with my wife or, maybe my parents or something for a short ride, it just feels like them having a poor experience getting in and out and poor comfort may inhibit why I'm buying this car. But at the end of the day, again, it is largely for me. So I don't know. I don't know what would you do, Sondren? And I guess this is probably one of those questions we'll put out to the listeners. I'd love to hear their perspective.
You know what? Of the used ones that you saw, how many people had these seats?
It was 50-50.
It was 50-50, huh?
Oh, that's a tough one. Like the seats look beautiful.
Two-way adjustable are very well bolstered. They hug you amazing. So if it's like at the track, would I feel totally? If I go to the track for how often I'm going to go, the two-way are more than fine. There's lots of people that I know that very much used it as a track car that were fine with the two-way adjustable.
Right.
But it's the final remaining decision.
Wow. Huh.
You know what? $7,000 is a lot of money for some seats. The stock seats are still amazing.
People resell them used, and I think they sell somewhere like $15,000 or more.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, people swap. I don't know why.
No way. Oh, wow.
They're a bargain. They're apparently a bargain to get integrated in this car from purchase. But I think the $6,700 is obviously a big piece of it.
Did your standard seats come with the seatbelt that's red?
Yeah. That was an add-on that I added.
Got it.
You can do that in like 5 or 6 colors.
Oh my God. Oh, that's so tough. And this is like, and you've sat in it. Like I haven't sat in it, so it's hard for me to actually say.
Comfortable. But here's the other thing, and you're going to understand this fully. My number one pet peeve in any car I've ever owned is all of the scuff marks on the door and the sill when people can't get into your car easily.
Yeah.
And it's just scuff city. And I know with these seats, I will be scrubbing scuffs off all the time and cringing every time someone gets in and out of the car.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's another piece of it as well. But I don't know. If you had to make a decision right now, what would you do?
Oh man, because even on my R8, the bolsters are not even that high, but you already have bolster wear. My R8 is really old now, but
imagine it's not even a price difference. What would you do?
Let me think about this. Hold on.
Man.
What would I do? This is a sick decision. Like, and it's not even my car that I'm buying. And oh man. You know what? Based on everything you just told me,
You're basically doing it only for the looks.
you're only doing it for the looks. And when you do take it to the track, yeah, it'll be more supportive for sure. I can imagine. But it's basically a huge flex. Like, let's be real here. It's a pretty big flex. Oh, man. You know what? I'm sick, so I would probably get it. But I see the million reasons why. Like, the actual logical decision to it is probably go with the two-way adjustable seats. They look beautiful. They're supportive as well. And it's pretty hefty coin for some seat upgrades, right? For a seat that's already really
More
good.
than cover a full body XPEL wrap and paint protection film and, you know, ceramic coating
And more.
and more, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a hefty amount of money, and you can protect the entire car and that investment for less. So
Man.
That's a tough choice. But right now in your spec, you have the 2As put in there right now. I think that makes sense.
locked in overnight by mistake, we're not getting the full bucket seats.
Oh man.
Oh my God. So with all that said, those are all the main options that you've picked out. You have to submit this in like 30 days from now.
I've already submitted with this spec. So
Okay.
I just have to review the sheet to make sure he didn't miss anything on the inputs and sign off on that.
Got it.
Also have to sign off on making sure I made sure to include do not install front plate.
Oh, right. Yes. Make sure, because I don't know on the GT4 if they do this, but like, do they drill in?
Or, yeah.
Oh God, avoid.
So it's actually a listed item on the spec sheet. So I've put do not install front plate bracket.
Yo, I've heard horror stories, by the way, of people still putting that like information in and they still drilled into the fronts.
I'll probably call them the week of delivery
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah. Make sure that they're reminded.
Oh man, that's crazy. That is nuts. So first off, congrats on locking in the spec. Like, this is probably I'm giddy for you, because I remember like this feeling. It's just a great feeling. It's part of the experience. So like, you have to give them the final lockdown. Explain to me like what's next. Like, you give them final spec at some point. What happens?
This week I'll send back everything signed. At that point, I basically told them this is my spec. The only consideration left is whether I would change the seat from what I've told you, which would be to the full buckets.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm confirmed. It goes into production in January, and mid to late March, this car arrives. It'll be amazing. We get like a full 7-8 months of usage here in Canada.
Right.
Before I'm gonna have to store it, which is like the longest I'll actually be able to use it, right? Like, there's no better time. April, you know, it's just March is the time. February, there's still snow on the ground. Even March there might be. So it's like the perfect time to get it, to fully enjoy a full year with it. And then we'll have to go for a ride.
And then obviously, before you take it anywhere for a ride, you're getting this thing completely XPEL or like some sort of paint protection film on it. You're gonna ceramic it. Have you even decided like on my R8, I got the entire
I was
front
just
end.
gonna ask Canadian Rider for his recommendations.
So this is obviously a pretty iconic car. You know, some prices for paint protection can be pretty high. In my experience on the R8, just for an example, I got the entire full hood done, the A-pillars, basically the entire front end of the car. It's been great protection, and I didn't get any stone chips or anything bad on the backside or mid side of the car. If it's exorbitantly more expensive on the rear, then that's up to you to decide if it's worth it or not. But like, obviously front end, it's 100% must, like full wrap on the front end, ceramic coating the entire car. I don't know if you've done research on some good installers here in the GTA yet.
I'm gonna start on that now. I think these cars are pretty notorious for getting stone chips in the side vents, or they have Cup 2 tires. So they're very sticky tires. So the rear bumper gets a lot of throw as well from stones. So at that point, you wrapped the front of the car, the side vents, the rear bumper. The only thing you haven't wrapped maybe is like part of the rear pillars or the roof of the car, I guess. So, I mean, it is a consideration that I'm thinking through, which might be wrap the entire car.
It just depends on the price, right? Like if it's not exuberantly insane, a full car wrap versus half, like obviously I do full car too. That it's honestly like the best thing, and I tell people all the time when they get a new car. A couple of my buddies at work bought new cars. I'm like, get that thing protected. Like if you care for this and you actually want to keep it in the future, like look at my Lexus. It is peppered on the front. That's obviously a daily driver with 300,000 kilometers. I get it, different kind of cars, but like the road just destroys your car, even if you try to keep good care of it. Like, and with the chalk, I actually don't know if the primer underneath is white. If that's the case, it's going to show up bad paint chips. And I don't know how good the paint is like on these GT4s. Like I know different brands and manufacturers, the paint is like different hardness levels. Some chip really easy, like the Teslas. I know they're notorious for paint chips. So people typically get those like full film wrapped right away.
Well, the search will be on for high quality installers in the GTA. Preferably, I'd like someone that's done a GT4 before.
Right.
As like when you do the full paint protection film, you start actually pulling some parts off the car, and someone that's done that a few times before they start playing with the clips on mine would be ideal. So we'll look and see.
Nice. Well, listen, Mike, thanks so much for coming on to the first episode of the Downshift podcast. That's amazing. If you guys have any questions, leave them down in the comment box down below. We'll be happy to respond to them. We're going to be giving an update on this journey as well in a future episode, which is amazing. So make sure you give this video a like if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel for more content and more from the Downshift podcast. Again, Mike, congratulations. I know the feeling, and I can't imagine what you're going through right now. So yeah, I'm excited for you. We'll keep updated with the progress on the build, and when you confirm the spec, and then when you actually get the car delivered, it's going to be an amazing experience.
Sounds good, man. Thanks for having me.
All right. We'll talk to you guys soon. We'll see you guys in the next video.